So after the lens of my contour camera was cracked a few months ago, I decided that I really needed a new way of protecting the lens, something that was way better than the lens protector that contour includes. Because as soon as it got a direct hit from a BB, that thing just shattered and my lens was cracked, and that was it for the camera. So I now have a new lens in my camera, and so now I need to figure out a new way to protect it. So what I decided to do was cut some circles out of 1/4-inch polycarbonate. I bought this big sheet of super clear polycarbonate sheet on eBay. I think I got this sheet for around $8 or something like that. It's a 12 by 12 sheet, and this will make many screen or lens protectors. Not that I'm going to need that many because they're never going to break, but anyway, maybe I can make some for other people. So the way I'm cutting these circles is with an 1.5-inch hole saw, and as you can see, the hole saw has a drill bit in the middle of it. Hole saws have those drill bit in it because it helps you make your cut straight up and down. If you try to do a cut without that drill bit in there, then the hole saw would just go all over the place. It would be moving around like that instead of just spinning straight. So what I did, so that I can get a piece that ends up like this with no hole in the middle from the drill bit, was I first, with the drill bit in, I cut myself a hole, a circular hole, in a piece of wood, and then I take the drill bit out of the hole saw and use this hole in the wood as a guide for the hole saw so that I can cut a good circle in this piece of polycarbonate and actually get it nice and clean and not all scratched up. So all I do is I hold this piece of wood on top of the polycarbonate and I go ahead and just cut through using the hole as a guide and cut through the polycarbonate only, and that gives me nice clean circles like this that are very clear and will work perfectly as screen protectors. And that's 1/4-inch polycarbonate, so that's never going to break from an airsoft BB impact. So once I've cut out the circle and I've gotten it out of the hole saw, which can be a bit of a chore sometimes, you can see it looks like this. It has protective film on both sides, so I want to go ahead and peel the protective film off. And then you can see how incredibly clear that is. It's perfect. I mean, it's really just like glass. And since this is polycarbonate, it's plastic, it's not glass, it will scratch, but it starts out pretty good, and I think that this is really great. It doesn't. I've already tried the camera with a piece of this in front of it, and it doesn't really obstruct the. It doesn't put a haze over it or anything like that. So this is really nice, high-quality polycarbonate. So you can see I've got this ring of sort of melted stuff around the edge here. I'm gonna just want to scrape that off with a knife so I have a cleaner edge when I want to put it on the camera. And then I'll move on to show you guys how I'm going to attach this to the front of my camera. So now you can see here I've got my circular polycarbonate and I've trimmed all that excess stuff off of the sides. And here's my camera. And this is what I'm going to use to attach it to the camera. And this is heat shrink tubing. I'm sure a lot of you guys have used this before. If you do any of your own electrical work on your guns, you need this when you're doing battery connectors and all kinds of things. And this is obviously just really big heat shrink tubing. This is 35 millimeters inside, and it will shrink down a lot smaller than that. And so I thought that this would be perfect for attaching this to the camera, and it would attach it in such a way that if I wanted to, I could probably remove it later. This is the piece of heat shrink that I'm going to use to attach it. I just sliced off a piece that's a little wider than I actually need, and I'll just trim off the excess later. And what I'm going to do to get a little bit of extra security is I'm going to dab a very thin layer of this Gorilla Glue on the outside of the ring here and on the outside of my actual piece of polycarbonate as well. And I think that, and this glue, when it dries, it gets hard and it expands, and I think that that'll hold it on really nice and tight. So just so you guys can see how this looks on there, you see that this is just the right size to go on the front of that camera there. And so I'll just put that on top like that, and then put this tubing over the top of it around the sides, and get a heat gun or a lighter or something to shrink that tubing around it, and that'll be held on there nice and tight. So I'm actually going to go inside to do that because it's getting a little bit breezy out here and I won't be able to use the lighter very well, so I'm going to go inside to do that. So here's the camera now that I have the lens protector, the piece of polycarbonate on top of the movable ring and the heat shrink on top of it, and I went inside and I heated it up with a lighter and shrunk it around there, and you can see how much this stuff shrinks, so you can tell that it is very tight right here where it obviously isn't allowed to shrink that small. And I did a little bit of Gorilla Glue underneath here, underneath the heat shrink, on both on top of the polycarbonate and on top of the ring there, so when that dries this is going to be pretty much immovable. I'll still be able to turn the ring so that I can change which way the camera is oriented so I can hold it on its side and whatnot, but this will not slide around on there anymore. And so what I'm going to do now is just take a razor blade and trim on the front here around in a circle so that I have a very thin overlap of the heat shrink on top of the polycarbonate, and that I feel like that'll just help it a little bit more to keep the polycarbonate from sliding forward. Not that that would be very likely to happen since it's glued, but still, I want to try it anyway. So now I've trimmed the heat shrink, so as you can see on the front it overhangs just a very little bit. It curls up onto the front there, and that's kind of pushing it back and keeping it tight up against the ring on the front of the contour camera. And it's not all that noticeable. I mean, this doesn't really need to look pretty, but this is not very noticeable. It's probably one of the lower profile things that you could do to try and protect your lens. And now I have a 1/4 inch thick piece of polycarbonate semi-permanently attached to the front of my camera, and I'm never going to have to worry about an airsoft BB impact damaging my lens ever again.